Yeah.
All right.
I've got my roster pulled up. I'm ready to go on my other screen over
You
here.
got your stats and everything. All right, so let's start with your roster then. Who is like who's like the guy that you drafted that you're like, that was a good pick? Like, I don't mean like who was your best player, but I mean, your fourth or fifth round guy that ended up being a really way overachieving or whatever. Somebody like that. Who are you liking on your roster that you feel best about after the draft?
Yeah. I mean, outside of like the top couple picks, I don't exactly remember where I drafted Chris Paul, but I'm feeling pretty good about him right now. I mean, he's looking pretty solid in Phoenix up to this point. The points haven't exactly been coming through for him yet. He's only averaging like 13 and a half per game or something like that, but he's crushing the assists like you
I
would.
would say you mean like actually like buckets. You don't mean fantasy points.
Oh yeah, like straight up points.
Okay.
So, but yeah, he's averaging about 32 per game right now, which for where I took him, I feel pretty solid about. And he's been a pretty solid contributor so far. Honestly, for my team, the biggest thing is just going to be health going forward because I've got Kyrie, I've got Chris Paul, who missed a little bit of time last year. Draymond, who knows what he's going to do this year. He may, just kind of bounce around off and on my IR all year. Also, shout out to Draymond for only having literally 1 point through his first 2 matchups of the year. So that's been great.
That's because my guy Steph's got to score 62 every night.
That's true. No buckets for Draymond.
When I decided to keep Steph, I was like up until like I think it was literally whatever time we were doing the draft, 9:30. It was like 9:29 when I finally decided, yes, I'm keeping Steph.
Yeah.
And I was like, this may have been a stupid decision. And I kind of felt that way the first couple of games, and then last night I was like, all right, no, I think it's okay. Hopefully he'll have more nights like last night. I think he's getting tired. He even made some comments about this. He's getting tired of people kind of smacking him around like, oh, he's not that good, blah blah blah. So
yeah,
I'm hoping this is what I was hoping for last year when I picked him was a Steph revenge year. I hope maybe it's just a delayed Steph revenge year.
Yeah.
I was looking at you right. You're absolutely right, dude. Because Nurkic has injury history. Draymond, Jimmy hasn't had like super bad ones, but depending on the year, being in Miami probably helps. And then Gallo, but Gallo's nice. I mean, look, the Zaza rule is toughest for all of us, but actually Gallo's a nice one because you can stick him on your IR if he's ever injured, and it's okay. Especially
IR spots. He wasn't even a draft pick. I forget who dropped him last week. Might have been Grantham or Legrone or somebody, but yeah, someone dropped him, and I've been riding the Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter. Hunter's been doing pretty good actually, but I was riding these like low-level young Hawks train for a while.
That night, just streaming.
Yeah, I think my first matchup, I like dropped and picked up like 4 different people just for the Zaza rule. So when Gallo got dropped, I was like, oh, I'm gonna stick him on my IR for sure and just ride with that. So
yeah, that's smart. Yeah, it looks like I don't know who Dustin picked up, but he drafted Gallo in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was noticing too. I was looking at the stats for your team before we pulled this up. So you have the second most. Yeah, you've made the second most moves. Andrew, who, interesting for everybody to pay attention, he's got the second most points in the league. He has by far the most moves, 16. I honestly thought I was making a lot of moves. I was like, man, I'm adding and dropping a lot of players, which I've kind of decided like I'm going to do a lot more of that early in the year rather than trying to like trust my draft or whatever. I'm just going to ride people a lot more and just ride the waiver wire a lot more. Anyway, so you making a lot more moves this year. What's that been about? Like what's been getting you going with more moves?
Well, I mean, if you remember last year, I led the league in moves made by a pretty significant margin.
Did you?
Yeah.
I checked last year too. I thought you were one of the worst teams, and you were. It is funny.
It was pretty bad last year. Some of that was just because like I had guys who got injured or this or that, but last year was my first year doing fantasy, and so I think in my mind I was like, oh, I have to have like a full lineup every single night. When really, I think that like the better long-term strategy is probably like to find a guy who's going to contribute, significantly over a period of time. But there are times where it's just like, hey, if I don't have this extra 30 points on Sunday for this matchup, I might lose. And then it's like, well, I'm gonna drop a guy that probably is better than this guy, but the schedule just doesn't line up. So I would say about half of those 10 moves so far this year have been Zaza related. I think I dropped dropped and added DeAndre Hunter a couple times, dropped and added Cam Reddish a couple times, just kind of roll the dice with those guys. But hopefully now that I've got Gallo on my IR, I'll just be able to kind of roll with him going forward. But
that makes sense. I haven't checked Andrews, but I wonder if he's got a similar thing going where, you know, he's like streaming. I haven't even seen I don't know who he's got on his squad as far as for the Zada. That probably is what some people are going to do.
Well, I benefited a little bit from Andrew dropping one of the guys he did, because he dropped Tyler Hero, who's I don't think going to be like, you know, a 30 plus points guy, but probably like high 20s in terms of like points per night. So he dropped him like last week or something, and I was able to scoop in and pick him up. So
well, once Hero gets traded to Houston and a James Harden deal, then boom, he's gonna be the only guy in the backcourt between him and Eric Gordon the whole time.
That's true. There we go.
All right, so you're kind of talking about, so what's been, so you're the newest member of the league, right? You got totally smacked last year. I thought I was number 11 last year, but actually you ended up 11th last year. Yep. So what was like your biggest like takeaway, lesson learned from last year to this year? What did you get out of it coming into this season?
I don't know for sure. I mean, probably just that I need to talk more smack with Blake here in my house. Outside of that, though, I mean, probably just making like long-term moves, kind of like I was mentioning before. You know, if you're able to pick up a guy who can do good over a consistent period of time, like that's better than picking up a guy who's just going to be good for a night or whatever. It's also been interesting learning the whole waiver system, just because it's different than like a lot of the fantasy football leagues. Where it's just, you know, timing based or whatever, and like it's ranked on priority. Like I think this year I'll probably be putting like $2 down for more people than I did last year, just because it's like if you really want a guy, you gotta pay for it. You gotta go get it, you know. But am I wrong?
That last year, I mean, last year was our first time doing that like bidding system or whatever. I realized like early on in the year, I mean, unless it was, I remember one person I put down like 10 or something because it was a crazy, like, I don't remember who it was or why I did that. But for the most part, I was like saving my money. I'm like, first off, I'm not sure. We may need to lower the amount of money to make it more competitive. But early in the season is the time to like use your money, you know, go ahead. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like go ahead and get it in early. And then probably later in the season, your team's going to be your team pretty much, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it all just depends on what kind of pickup it is. You know, if it's one of those guys where it's like, oh, I'm just picking up a guy to fill in on, you know, Saturday or Sunday of a matchup, that's like a $1 guy. But if it's like this guy could consistently be a contributor and I really want him on my team, I might put down like $3 or $4 on that guy, you know? So
yeah.
My man Blake just put down $15 on Aaron Gordon last week. So
Aaron Gordon? Are you $15?
Yeah.
Didn't he drop him? I think I saw him on the waiver wire.
So Bill dropped Aaron Gordon. And then I was kind of trying to like see if I could run the price up a little bit to see what was going on here. So I text Bill and I'm like, hey man, like what's going on with this? Like, why'd you drop him? Like I thought he was going to be like a 30 plus points guy for the Magic. And he's like, well, like, you know, he's like a third option. And, you know, I don't know if, you know, Bill's trying to like, you know, dumb him down a little bit, make me feel like I don't want to pick up Aaron Gordon. So I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, I might be putting down like $5 or $10 on Aaron Gordon tonight on the waiver wire. So then I say the same thing to Blake, and Blake actually ended up putting the highest bid on him. But I got Bill and Blake to both raise their bids a little bit.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's a shame there's not some kind of deal. I think this is how it works with restricted free agents in real NBA. That like however much, if it's a restricted free agent, you make an offer, that like that kind of money is there's something special about it. Like you can't, if they say no and they re-sign with their team, you can't just like take that money and give it to somebody else. Like someone at least been committed to that offer. So I wish they had that set up, but I don't think it's that intricate. So
yeah.
All right. So last thing, what as you're scanning the landscape, who are you looking at? And it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, the top teams right now. I mean, LeGrone, the LeGrone coalition is crushing it. I haven't even gone back to look see how they're doing it, but I mean, it's like significant points advantage for them. And then that's significant, I guess, because really me and Andrew, it just looks bigger when one says 2,000 something, the other says 1,900 plus 1 point. So anyway, I mean, the top three are pretty solid between LeGrone's, Andrew's squad, and then my team. So it doesn't have to be one of those top three, but who are you looking at like, oh, that's a good looking squad. Like, I don't really want to mess with them week in, week out. Like, who are you impressed by after the draft? Maybe like, well, that team really drafted well. or what people are doing so far this year? Who you looking at, kind of impressed by?
Yeah, I mean, I like Grantham's team a lot, honestly. I think he's been quiet so far. I mean, well, quiet. I mean, he's 2-0, so I don't know how quiet that is per
I was
se.
going to
But
say,
in terms of
well,
points, he's had two matchups that have the other team has definitely underperformed or forgotten to set their lineup or something like that. So maybe a little bit of benefit there. But I mean, if the Sixers can start, pulling it together, Embiid, Tobias Harris. I mean, he's got our boy John Collins. I mean, that could be a good team right there. So
yeah.
um,
And shockingly, only 2 UK guys, and he's riding a Kansas guy and a Duke guy on this
yeah,
team. So he's out here to win. He's not out here for your feelings.
that's right. That's right.
Dana War is coming to war. All right, that's cool. All right, man. Well, this is fun. I'm super glad that we got to chat about this, and hopefully you get to dominate some people in the next
Yeah,
few weeks. Actually,
absolutely.
not this week, since before we scheduled this call, and then I found out we're facing off. So
There we go.
save your domination until next week.
Well, we'll see about that. But yeah, appreciate it, man. This is cool.
All right.